The first night I heard them, I told myself it was the house settling. Old farms do that. Beams sigh, floorboards contract in the cold, pipes knock like distant fists. I had only been living in the farmhouse for 3 days, and every sound still felt like an accusation. The footsteps came at 4:03 a.m. precisely. I looked at the red numbers on the alarm clock when they began. Slow, deliberate steps along the hallway runner, the soft crush of pile under a weight that knew exactly where the creaking boards were and avoided them. They moved from the top of the stairs toward my door, and then nothing. Just the sudden absence of pressure, as if the walker had dissolved into the air 2 feet from my room. I lay rigid under the quilt my grandmother had sewn the year before she died, waiting for a knock, a whisper, a handle turning. None came. After 20 minutes, I convinced myself I had dreamed it, while half awake. I even laughed once, a dry croak that embarrassed me in the dark. The second night I was ready. I left the bedside lamp on its lowest setting and sat propped against the headboard with a glass of water I never drank. At 4:02, the steps began again. Same cadence, same careful placement. They crossed the exact same path, paused in the exact same spot. I could almost map the invisible body by the way the floor received it. Heel, ball, toe, heel, ball, toe. When the silence returned, I found myself leaning forward, ridiculous as it sounds, straining to hear breathing on the other side of the wood. I opened the door fast enough to startle anything human. The hallway was empty. The runner lay undisturbed, not so much as a wrinkle. The air felt refrigerated, though the thermostat downstairs read 68. I left the hall light burning and went back to bed, telling myself that tomorrow I would phone the realtor and ask whether anyone had died in the house. People like to know these things, I rehearsed. It's only reasonable. On the third night, I did something braver and stupider. I dragged the little vanity chair into the hallway and sat facing my closed bedroom door with all the lights off. I wanted to see the feet, or the absence of feet, when they stopped. My pulse was so loud I feared it would drown the sound. 4:01, 4:02, 4, 3. They began. This time, I felt the steps as much as heard them. The boards transmitted a faint vibration up through the chair legs into my spine. Closer, closer, until the presence was directly in front of me. I stared at the floorboards in the weak glow that leaked under my door and saw nothing. No shadow, no depression, no stir of dust. Whatever walked had no more substance than memory, yet the pressure against my sternum was crushing. I smelled my grandmother's talcum powder, Johnson's baby powder, mixed with something metallic underneath. The steps simply ceased. The hallway held its breath with me. I do not know how long I sat before I realized I was crying without sound. Eventually, I crawled back into bed, fully dressed, and slept until noon. The realtor, a thin, cheerful woman named Marla who wore seasonal brooches, laughed when I asked about deaths on the property. "Honey, this house is over 140 years old. Everybody dies somewhere." She promised to look in the files and call me back. She never did. By the 5th night, I had developed a sick fascination. I left my door open 6 inches, the way a child does for the cat. I lay on my side facing the gap, eyes wide, waiting. The steps arrived on schedule. They crossed the threshold this time. I felt the air change, as though someone had opened a freezer in front of me. The mattress on the unoccupied side dipped slowly, as if a body were lowering itself with great care. I could not move. I could not scream. The depression deepened until the sheets were pulled taut beside me. Then the cold settled in. a weightless cold that soaked through cotton and skin alike. A hand, I swear it, brushed the hair from my forehead with the gentleness of a mother checking for fever. The fingers smelled of talcum and iron. I gagged on the smell, but still could not move. The touch withdrew, the mattress leveled. The presence left the room as silently as it had entered, and only when the front door downstairs sighed shut did my limbs remember how to function. I stumbled to the window in time to see nothing but moonlight on the side yard and the long grass bending, though there was no wind. I did not sleep again that night. At dawn, I packed one bag, threw it in the car, and drove to the only motel within 30 miles that still had vacancy. The clerk, a boy with acne and kind eyes, asked if I was all right. I told him I thought I had carbon monoxide poisoning. He nodded, as if people said that often. I stayed 3 nights in the motel, showering 3 times a day to wash away the smell that clung to my hair. On the second day, I called a paranormal investigations group I found online. They sounded thrilled. I hung up before giving my name. On the third afternoon, I drove back to the farmhouse in daylight, armed with rationality and a thermos of gas station coffee. The house looked smaller than I remembered, embarrassed by its own sagging roofline. Inside, everything was exactly as I had left it. The unmade bed, the open suitcase, the chair still facing the door like a sentinel. Nothing had been disturbed. Even the dust motes hung in the same shafts of light. I walked the hallway, measuring it with my own feet. 22 steps from the top of the stairs to my bedroom door. I pressed my ear to each floorboard, listening for hollow places. Nothing. In the attic, I found only mouse nests and a broken spinning wheel. In the crawl space under the porch, nothing but the smell of damp earth. I began to feel hysterical with relief. Clearly, I had suffered a prolonged panic attack brought on by isolation and an overactive imagination. That night, I would sleep in my own bed, door locked, radio on, and in the morning, I would list the house for sale and never think of it again. I cooked spaghetti and ate it standing over the sink. I took the hottest shower I could stand. I chose a podcast about maritime disasters, something with plenty of British voices to fill the rooms. At 11:17 p.m., I turned off all but the bedside lamp, took one of the sleeping pills the motel clerk had sold me from a personal stash, and waited for the chemical tide to carry me out. I dreamed I was walking the hallway barefoot. The runner was soft and warm beneath my soles. I knew exactly where to place each foot, so the board stayed quiet. When I reached my bedroom door, I paused, listening to the sound of someone breathing on the other side. The breathing matched mine perfectly. I reached for the doorknob, smiling the way you smile when you are about to surprise someone you love. I woke up gasping. The podcast had ended. The room was silent except for the tick of the baseboard heater. The clock glowed 3:58 a.m. I lay rigid, counting the frantic drum inside my ribs. At 4:03, the footsteps began, right outside my door. They didn't approach from the hallway this time. They simply started, as if the thing had been planted there since dusk, patient as stone. One step across the threshold, another. The carpet drank the sound, yet each impact landed like a mallet against my sternum. The air curdled with talcum and iron. The steps crossed the room. The mattress dipped beside me, hard, rolling me against a presence that bled cold, the way a furnace bleeds heat. Tonight, the hand didn't pause at my brow. It trailed down my cheek, my throat, and settled over my heart like a judge's gavel. A voice unfolded inside my skull, soft, almost loving. You left the door cracked for me, Junebug, my childhood name. Only one dead woman ever used it. The hand bore down. My ribs creaked like old floorboards. I opened my mouth. Nothing came but a papery click. black flowers bloomed at the edges of my sight. Then, nothing. The weight lifted. The mattress bounced back. The stench thinned. I lay gasping in ordinary darkness, waiting for a second blow that never arrived. At 4:27, the grandfather clock downstairs coughed once, and I knew I was alone again. I flooded the house with light and perched at the kitchen table until the sun bled across the sky. When the world turned the color of a healing bruise, I dragged the vanity chair back into the hallway and waited for another night. I no longer wanted out. I wanted answers. For the next week, I lived upside down, catnaps by day, prowling by night with a flashlight in one fist and a voice recorder burning a hole in my pocket. I set out glasses of water to catch tremors. I dusted the floor with flour. I aimed a cheap motion camera at the bedroom door. Every dawn, the water sat glassy, the flour untouched, the memory card bloated with nothing but static shadows. Yet every night at 4:03, the footsteps returned, bolder, lingering longer. The thing no longer respected rooms. I'd wake to the rocker creaking, though no breeze stirred the curtains. I'd feel it behind me at the bathroom sink, its breath raising the hairs along my neck like wheat before a storm. Once I opened the fridge and found a single bare footprint on the top shelf, toes aimed at the milk carton, already shrinking in the fluorescent glow. I started speaking to it, first in whispers. "Grandma, is that you? Are you mad I sold your plates?" Then with teeth bared, "Say what you want or leave me alone." And finally in the cracked voice of someone bargaining with the dark itself. One night, I left the bedroom door wide open and lay on top of the covers in my coat and boots, daring it. The steps entered immediately, crossed to the bed, and the weight settled over me like a second quilt. I forced my eyes open. There was nothing to see but the ceiling I had stared at since childhood summers, spent in this very room. The pressure increased until my lungs whistled. "What do you want?" I rasped. The answer came as a warmth against my ear, almost a kiss. "I want you to stay." The next morning, I found the front door standing open, though both deadbolts were still thrown. Frost glittered on the porch boards in the perfect outline of two bare feet. I understood then. The house had never been haunted by a ghost. It was haunted by the space a person leaves behind, the exact shape of their absence. My grandmother had walked these floors every night for 78 years, checking locks, listening at doors, making sure her family was safe. When she died in the front room downstairs, the habit outlived the body. The footsteps were the house remembering how to mother me long after the arms that once held me had gone cold. I stopped fighting. I left the bedroom door open permanently. I began setting an extra place at the table, though I ate alone. Some nights I woke to find the quilt tucked more securely around my shoulders than I had left it. Once I found a single white hair on my pillow that curled exactly like hers. Winter came early. Snow muffled the world outside. The footsteps still arrived at 4:03, but now they circled the bed once, twice, like a dog turning before it lies down, and then the mattress dipped gently beside me. I no longer flinched from the cold. I came to welcome it, the way you welcome the weight of a cat choosing your lap. People in town stopped asking why I never left the farm anymore. Deliveries appeared on the porch without my ordering them. Milk, bread, the local paper still warm from the press. Someone was paying the bills. The lights stayed on. I let the phone ring itself out. Last night, the steps did not come at 4:03. I woke anyway, heart skittering, and felt the bed already occupied. The depression was deeper than ever before, shaped to my own body, as though a mold had been taken. The smell of talcum and iron wrapped around me like flannel. A hand, my own grandmother's hand, thin and knuckled with arthritis, closed over mine under the covers. I turned toward the empty air and whispered, "I'm here, Graham. I'm not going anywhere." The clock read 4:03 exactly. For the first time in months, the house was silent. And in that silence, I understood the final truth. The footsteps had never been coming for me. They had been waiting for me to finish the walk myself, to step into the shape she left behind, so the house would never again be motherless. I close my eyes now and feel the floorboards, learning the weight of my own bare feet, practicing the path from stairs to door, learning where to fall soft and where to pause. Soon it will be my turn to keep watch. Tonight, when the clock downstairs strikes 4, someone else will hear the quiet tread in the hallway, the careful avoidance of the creaking board by the bathroom, the pause outside a bedroom door, and they will think the house is haunted. But it is only love trying to find its way home in the dark.